I love you, mommy.
Here we go, boys. About to go live. About to go live. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back, and we are better than ever. We are in there like swimwear, all 162 games of the year. I am Mike Hughes, a.k.a. The Shy Kid, and you are listening to a special edition of Cubs After Dark, only brought to you by Mike on the Mic podcast. Make sure you're following us on TikTok. Make sure you're following us on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere else. YouTube and Facebook is going to be Mike on the Mic, and of course, on TikTok and Instagram, it is the Shy.Kid. But baby, we're back. We got Cubs baseball kicking off in 2 days, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, what a great way to start opening day. Rather than hearing from Pete Rose saying that if he would have had an interpreter in the 70s and 80s, that he'd be a Hall of Famer right now, from Shohei Ohtani spilling the beans in a press conference, we have heard everything around the sun right now revolving around the Los Angeles Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani. There's so much going on, so much to unpack, but make sure you check out my boy Mike Powers on Give Us a Shot Network. He broke that down, his opinions on Pete Rose's comments, Shohei Ohtani's situation, so much more. We're going to continue to talk about that as the week continues on Give Us a Shot. So definitely make sure you check them out on all social media accounts because they do amazing work. But let's check it out, man. Let's get into it. Craig Counsell, manager of the Chicago Cubs. It just doesn't get old saying that. It doesn't get old. I know the fellas in Wrigley North are just, I know it still hurts. But he finally revealed the opening day lineup. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. First and foremost, we have to talk about the rotation. Starting off, the lefty himself from a small town, Justin Steele, making his first opening day start. Last year was Marcus Stroman, even though I felt like it should have been Justin Steele last year. You obviously give the nod to a veteran like Marcus Stroman, and in the first half of the season, that made sense. So the rotation for the Chicago Cubs going into opening day is going to be Justin Steele, Kyle Hendricks, Jordan Wicks, Shota Imanaga, who will be making his MLB debut on opening day at Wrigley Field on April 1st, and Javier Assad. Obviously, Jameson Taillon is still recovering from what I believe was a back injury, and we'll see how he continues to progress as the weeks go on. The bullpen, Aber Alzolay, Hector Neris, Julian Merriweather, Mark Leiter Jr., Yency Almonte, Drew Smiley, Jose Cuellos, and Luke Little. That is going to be the bullpen for the Chicago Cubs. Surprised Ben Brown didn't make that cut. I thought he did absolutely phenomenal. And it's really unfortunate that a guy like Caleb Killian couldn't stay healthy, because I think he would have made this opening day roster over a guy like Javier Assad. Catchers for the Chicago Cubs, Jan Gomes and Miguel Amaya going into year two. Infielders, shout out to Michael Busch, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to be one of our first infielders after being brought into the Cubs organization. Top 10 prospect right now. I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do. Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, Christopher Morel will be at third base. Garrett Cooper, shout out Garrett Cooper on a minor league deal, made the roster. Miles Mastroboni continues to prove me wrong, and he has made the opening day roster. And finally, the MVP, the greatest hitter in Chicago Cubs history, the man, the myth, the legend himself. He's so nice, you can say it twice. Nicky Two Strikes, Nick Madrigal, ladies and gentlemen. Outfielders will be Ian Happ, Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki, and the Palatine Pounder, Mike Tauchman. On the injured list right now, Jameson Taillon with a back injury, Patrick Wisdom with a back injury. Jameson Taillon, from what we understand, is making good strides into coming back very soon. Patrick Wisdom, I think is more of a question mark. Craig Counsell said there is room for concern. But with that being said, how do we feel about the opening day roster? How do we feel about this in its entirety? Because I think there were notably 2 to 3 guys that I would have loved to see make the roster. Alexander Canario is one of those guys that I feel like, you option him to AAA. And you just really, there's no reason for it other than the fact that Cody Bellinger's back. And that's obviously a big reason. And the fact that you're paying Ian Happ. But I felt like towards the end of last year and towards this year in spring training, from what we've seen, Alexander Canario to me is ready to make the big league jump at a consistent level. And it would have been nice to see him even be a depth piece. I don't understand. I'll never really understand keeping Miles Mastroboni on the bench over a guy like Alexander Canario. But I guess the thinking is you want him to get consistent at bats and consistent playing time in AAA until his number's called upon. It just would have been nice to see him at the big league level, but you understand in the outfield right now, there's just no place for him. But I would have imagined that there was a place for him starting at the DH spot every single day. But the problem with that is I don't think they're comfortable with Michael Busch at first base every day. That's obviously why Garrett Cooper is going to probably be a big part of it. I'm curious to see how that pans out. But with that being said, another guy I really would have loved to see is Owen Casey. And listen, don't come at me in these comments. I have covered the Chicago Cubs farm system since I was 12. Before I even knew what media was, I've been watching every single game of these guys from start to finish. And it's like, I understand the development. I understand you got to go to AAA. Mike, you're crazy if you think this kid doesn't need to go to AAA. But I'm telling you right here, right now, Owen Casey does not need to go to AAA. Owen Casey could start tomorrow. I promise you this today. Right hand up to God. I truly believe this. Ian Happ versus Ian Happ versus Owen Casey. I believe today, as of March 26th, 2024, Owen Casey would outperform Ian Happ on opening day today. I truly do believe that. That's no shot at Ian Happ. It's just how high I am on a guy like Owen Casey offensively. Defensively, he's not a liability, but he's not wowing you. You know what I'm saying? But like I completely understand having him start in the minor leagues and slowly get him maybe at some point by the end of the 2024 season into the bigs, kind of like we saw with Alexander Canario, but hopefully sooner. But I'm just really excited about this. And number 3, I know a lot of people are going to say it's PCA. I wasn't shocked whatsoever that PCA didn't make the big league lineup. It's just what it is. You know what I mean? Like Pete is an electrifying player. Pete is somebody who I believe has the intangibles to be a Hall of Fame caliber player. The problem is, I think, and this is just me speaking freely, I think Pete gets in his own way sometimes. I think sometimes he's trying to do more when he should be doing less. I just posted something on my Instagram that is big for me. You know what I mean? And it's something that I talk about all the time. I think it's huge when you break down the theory of reverse effort. If you've ever heard the theory of reverse effort, it basically entails if you're going up to the plate. This is an example. If you're going up to the plate and you're trying to knock it out of the park every single time you approach the plate, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna fail. Now, realistically speaking, 500 at bats, let's say every 10 you hit 2. So you're on a great path. You know what I mean? You're in a great place right now to be having success. But at the end of the day, that's not going to keep you in the big leagues for long. The theory of reverse effort. There are many moments in life when you are trying too hard to be counterproductive. You think the harder we try with the consciousness will be 10 times harder to be able to accomplish that if that's all you're thinking of. You just got to go up there, be free, and be you. And I think Pete can hit big league level pitches. I think he's just in his mind blocking himself from having success. That is what I've read from Pete Crow Armstrong. That is my personal opinion. I could be totally wrong. You know what I mean? He could be Billy Bean and just not be able to hit, but I think he can. I think he can, and I think one of Pete's only problems is that he's in his own way. That's truly how I feel. I think Pete Crow Armstrong not going to college affected him. The kid's 21 years old. You know what I mean? We're asking him to go up here and bat 300. Like, it's not realistic. Defensively, we know where he is. Running the bases, we know where he is. Electrifying. One of the best defensive center fielders we've seen. But at the end of the day, offensively, not having that college level, going to the minor leagues and then being bumped up all the way to double A, triple A in just a couple years. And then obviously going 0 for 10 in the bigs in September. Like, it's a lot. You know what I mean? And they're trying to push that because they want him to be what he is, which is a top 100 prospect, a top 15 prospect in baseball. But sometimes you can't rush that. If you rush it, if you remember Ian Happ, he comes in 2017 after being one of the top Chicago Cubs prospects in 2016. And I felt like he was a little rushed. I felt like because Dexter Fowler left and because Jorge Soler was gone and, Matt Caesar and all these other guys were gone, you had to bring him in. But I would have liked him to make his debut in 2018. I think that's when he would have had a lot more consistent success. That's why you see some years where Ian's consistent, some years where he's an all-star, some years where he's just in the middle. You know what I mean? And it's like, development is so key. And if all you're doing is going online to look up stuff about prospects and you're like, oh, well, this is his velocity off the bat at the minor league level. He can make it to the big league level. This is his OPS. This is his WAR. This is what he's able to do. Like, all that's cool. But at the end of the day, you have to understand the longevity of it throughout an entire 162 game season and playoffs. Is he going to be able to hold up? Is he going to be able to seize the moment? They always say, I'm not even trying to preach to everybody right now, but they always say you don't sink down to your training. You sink down to the level of preparation. And I think that's important. You know what I mean? I think at the end of the day, the way you need to break it down in your mind is you need to be the best version of yourself. Somebody said, I miss Chris Bryant. Honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. Could you imagine if 2016 Chris Bryant was on this Cubs team? Could you imagine? Like 2016 MVP Chris Bryant, if he was on the 2024 Cubs today, do you have them going to the NLCS? I do. I do, without a shadow of a doubt. When you put a lineup together with Dansby Swanson, Seiya Suzuki, Cody Bellinger, Nico Horner, Christopher Morel, and Chris Bryant, whoa. Justin Steele on the mound. Oh, man. Come on now. It'd be a beautiful thing. It would be a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, Chris has fallen off the face of the earth. But with that being said, man, there's a lot of questions right now about where the Cubs are going to be going into the 2024 season. I think the realistic expectation is nothing less of a division championship. That's really what it is. A division title is everything right now. Playoffs is where we're at right now. We were just a couple games shy of it last year. I'm going to put this out into the universe, though, because I don't think a lot of people are talking about it. I truly believe this. I was talking to my boy Kev today. My boy Kev at 670 The Score, Bears Nation podcast. I told him we were hitting the cages tonight, and I said the best player on the Chicago Cubs today is Seiya Suzuki. No one's talking about it. He missed the beginning of spring training last year due to an oblique injury in the World Baseball Classic. Somewhat of a slow start, but ended up finishing the year batting .285 with over 20 home runs. He was great in the second half of last year. He was a huge part of the offense. In spring training this year, he's batting over .450. Seiya Suzuki is on an absolute tear right now after a fully healthy offseason. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the Chicago Cubs uniform in 2024 going into year 3. This is the Seiya Suzuki that we talked ourselves into when we signed him just a couple years ago. So I'm super ecstatic to see what he's going to be able to do. I think he's going to be electrifying on the base pass. Another one, if you're a betting man, if you are the bookkeeper of Shohei Ohtani, I would go over to DraftKings Sports right inside Wrigley Field today and take the over on Christopher Morel's home runs. In less than 110 games last year, this kid hit 25 home runs. He didn't even start the season with the team. He started in AAA Iowa. If you give him 130 to 150 games with 400 to 500 at-bats, you're looking at a guy who, playing every single day under Craig Counsell at third base, presumably, is going to hit 35 to 40 home runs at least. I'm taking Christopher Morel over on the home runs. You should too. And our last point we're going to make before we get out of here, you better walk in that casino right now and put the Cubs to win the nothing less than the National League division, baby. I'm excited about it. I'm hype about it. I can't wait for it. I mean, I'm all over the place. I'm just hype. I think when you look at the NL Central, there is no doubt in my mind that we could take it over. And when I talk about when we're winning the National League, I'm talking Cubs have a conversation to go to the World Series this year. I know that's premature, especially when you look at Ohtani and Betts and all and the Braves and all these other things going on. But it is exactly the right time for a Cinderella team in Chicago to make some noise. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you guys for being here. I'm exhausted. I am beat. And I'm sure you guys are too. So I'm going to be going live tomorrow. Make sure you tap in with us tomorrow morning. Until then, we're just a couple days away from opening day. Go Cubs, baby.
I love you.